So there was a request that we go back to Storm King, and I would be more than happy to follow any requests like that. Uh, so I went back up this week and really went to the other half of the collection and did shots of things. And what I'd like to do today is kind of focus in on about 4 artists in the collection, but I'll show a bunch of other things too while we're going through it. And starting off with Mark de Souvero is something that I'm more than happy to do because basically they have a huge holding of his work, and these pieces are so they're so huge and impressive when you walk in there. That for me, I'm just so overwhelmed by the scale of the pieces that the sense of buoyance, playfulness, and really engineering genius that goes into making these pieces kind of was lost on me just by the awe of being in front of something of this scale. I mean, this piece is 55 feet tall, 47 feet wide. But when you stop and look at the thing, there's all these kind of quirky little things that he goes and does, quirky big things that he does in there. And it's like, it's so large and so breathtaking when you first see them that the clever quality of how he plays with this material just went right over my head, but not this time. So what I did was I dug around and came up with some of the sketches that he does for these pieces. So you can see how kind of loose and open these little pen and ink drawings are that he does as conceptual drawings for these pieces. So if you look at this thing, it's gigantic. Again, it's an enormous piece. It's got a 50 foot wingspan on it, and yet when you look at it and you look at the buoyance and playfulness and looseness of the way those things are put together. Now, you don't just do that by accident, but his vision is so expansive that he can take those crazy ideas and turn them into these giant metal pieces. It's pretty remarkable.
Larry, do you have any idea why he calls it Mozart's birthday?
Nope. But it is intriguing, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And actually, if you go to the website and click on into the collection, they have more information about each of these pieces that I'm showing. So they also have videos, they have interviews with the artists, they have shots of the installations taking place with the cranes putting the pieces in place, and all of that. It's pretty remarkable what's there and what's available. It's been 60 years that they've been at this up there. All right, so let's move on. Okay, so this piece is called She, and well, okay. Now, if you look at it, there's all kinds of really funky things in here. Like there's let me get my pointer out. Let's see, pointer. Pen. Okay. So if you look over here, you got a steamroller, and look over here, and you've got the hook from a crane, and then this thing is what he's calling a swinging bed. So kind of interesting. And then, you know, this again is one of these wonderful sketches. This just ink splash and just rapid line thing, you know, basically just getting his ideas out in such a loose way. Okay, so I was out there taking the shot, and these two kids come running up and start dancing around this sculpture. So I had to get that shot. It's a beautiful piece. Actually, I wish I had a side view here, because it really is. It's called Untitled, but it really is kind of a walking man. And these kids dancing around the piece really fit right in with it. Let me see if I can do a zoom in. I want to do a zoom in on the material. This is bronze, but it actually was fashioned after he did it as a, it was wooden beams, and he cast it from those wooden beams. So what they did was they did a mold from the wooden beams and then cast it in the bronze. And, you know, it's got a beautiful patina on it. And then these guys, you know, it's just, it was a nice gray day. So these pieces really did some interesting things in that light. The Untitled Three Elements. Okay, and this piece is pretty interesting. It basically these were from my understanding some kind of engine parts or casts that this woman integrated into this sarcophagi. You know, there's a lot of grief around this piece. This piece does enter into it. She was actually in the prison camps and during the war, so this piece held a lot of meaning for her. Okay. The three-legged Buddha. This is, as you can see the figures over there. It's a pretty big piece. Interesting, you know. Chinese artist came in and installed the piece. There was actually an exhibit of body parts strewn throughout the grounds when he did this show back in 2007. Okay, and now I want to get into Ursula von Ruddingsart. She was a Polish. She was born in Germany, but she was of Polish parents. They were in the concentration camps, and then she grew up in kind of displaced persons barracks. And one of the things that she experienced when she was a young child was this kind of really rudimentary wooden barracks, ceilings, the floors were all really rough hewn and all that. This affected her profoundly. And one of the things that she does with her work is use this kind of rough hewn material to kind of bring some cohesion to what was a chaotic childhood. So very interesting work. You know, at first I passed right by this stuff when I first went to the museum. I just passed by the pieces, and I had heard of her work. I'd seen a few pieces here and there, but until I got up close to the things, I really wasn't quite getting it. They look like stone from a distance, but actually these are made out of laminated cedar planks. And they're, you know, as you can see with the figure down below, they're quite big. They're, you know, about 25 feet tall or so in some cases. These are, let's see, it's 14. But they are very imposing. And what she does is she laminates all these cedar planks and then cuts into them and rubs in graphite to give them that dark quality. What I want to do is they're really kind of, they're containers. They're also like shale, like stone. And this one, if you look at the top of the middle piece, you can see the honeycomb container aspect of the piece. Let's see. Move on. Okay, and here's a close-up on some of the things. When I got up close to the thing, I started to realize, you know, what she was doing. There was sort of a language that was developed by these pieces. There's a type of, they're almost like hieroglyphics scratched into the surface. The scarification, the gouging and scraping and cutting into the things has a very powerful quality when you get up near it. And as soon as I got close to the pieces, I started to fall in love with them because there's so much going on in these things. Now she is, you know, really trying to find a way to transform the instability of her childhood into something that's stable and solid in these pieces. And let's see, let me go on. And Luba is cast, it's cast bronze and cedar. This one is also at Storm King. And when I first saw it, I thought it was like a tree stump that had been planted there, but no, it's bronze. It's and then the piece on the right is for Natasha. It again is, it's 9 feet tall. It's cedar and graphite, and you can see the grid pattern in it from how the planks were attached and laminated together. And there's a kind of cohesion to the piece because of the grid, even though it's really rough and organic and you know, has the quality of sort of one of those stones that you see in a Zen garden or something like that. It really is in some way really soothing. Now, she just had an exhibit at the National Gallery of Women Artists. I think that's what it's called, in DC. And basically it was reviewed and all of that. There are several lectures on her, and I've got those at the end of the presentation. There's a YouTube and all of that. Let's see. Okay. And here's the lady herself in her Brooklyn studio, and she is, she's in all the major collections. Basically, she's in the Met, she's in the Museum of Modern Art, the Whitney. She's gotten grants from everybody you can name. They're really powerful pieces. The ocean floor piece is really interesting. The kind of container business. I mean, she thinks about this work as a container for her emotions, and this piece has these kind of sinkers around the outside of it to kind of plunge it down into the depth. Interesting pieces. Okay, and now we're going to move on to Galsworthy. The thing about the Galsworthy piece is it started out as being a 750-foot piece and turned into 2,278-foot long piece. So what happened was he got to the top of the hill and decided that he needed to go down the hill. And so he wrapped his way around these trees down to the pond and decided, well, you can't just stop there. So he went right on through the pond and out the other side. Let's see where we got here. There we go. So it plunges in on the other side and comes out through here and then keeps on going up the hill to the border of the other end of the Storm King property. He works with native materials. Okay, so all of these stones were gathered from the property. They were there. This was an old farm. This was old farmland at one point. So there were all these dry walls all over the place. And what he did with his crew is go out and gather these stones by hand and cart them over and set them up. And this is all handwork. This is the way Galsworthy is. Everything that he does, I mean, basically, down to figuring out how to chip and chisel things using stones to chisel other stones and things like that. The guy's a maniac, but a wonderful maniac. And basically what he's doing is saying something about the Earth's materials and trying to relate in some direct way to specific places and specific materials that are inherent in that place. Let's see. I've got some other pieces here. Let's go next. Okay, and this is up the hill. Okay, looking down, the pond is down at the end to the right here. And this shows the stone wall weaving around these trees going down the hill. Quite labor intensive. I don't know if any of you have ever done any masonry, but this is a lot of work. He had a crew of I think about 5 guys that he worked with on this, that he brought over from England to do this with him. Let's see. Okay. And okay. And this is another piece that is up higher. And basically what this is 5 men, 17 days, 15 boulders, 1 wall. So the guy is he's got a real sense of humor, but boy, the work ethic that goes behind this stuff is pretty remarkable. I mean, look at how those stones fit together. That is not an accident. This is a lot of work. This is a remarkable thing. There's the um, the Maryknoll Seminary down in Ossining has a stone wall in front of it. If you're ever down on Pinesbridge Road in Ossining and have a chance to take a look at that wall, that was done by a Japanese drywall mason, and it took him 2.5 years, I believe, to create that wall that's down there. These walls are not easy. If you look at the way those stones fit, interlock with each other, they're really beautiful, and it's just a really lovely thing to look at.
Larry,
Yes.
do you know how much time it took to complete the wall?
This one?
Yeah.
5 men, 17 days. The other one took longer, of course, because it ran for a lot longer and a lot further. That information again is on the website. I have it here buried in some of the paperwork that I've got around me, but it'd take me too long to dig that up. So what I'm going to do is move on to some more of Goldsworthy's work that's not at Storm King, but gives you a context for the work. Okay, and he's done these egg-shaped pieces all over the world, and he's done them in places where, you know, he did them in some tidal areas where they're susceptible to the tides coming in and going out, so they deteriorate over time. And he comes back and photographs them every day as they fall apart and get dragged out to sea. You know, this is part of his work is just the assembling and watching them fall apart. It's really part of his whole thing. It's always working with locally gathered materials. You know, this piece with the leaves is just incredible. And you know, if a good gust of wind came along while he was in the process of making the piece, he'd have to start all over again. And he did. That's what he did. He was like, you know, okay, this is what nature gave me. This is what I'll work with. The wind is part of nature. And these are other pieces that he's done, you know, the twigs and the branches and you know, it's really incredibly inventive, beautiful, ephemeral stuff. You know, the ice, what happens when the sun comes out? That's gone. It melts. He shoots shots of it as it melts, as it falls apart. But hey, it is what it is. You know, he does pieces where he'll go out and gather moss and gather pigment from the earth and things like that, and take them and cast them into streams and watch them flow down the stream and see what they do as they meander out over the stones and downstream. There's a great film which many of you have probably seen, but if you haven't, I have the title at the end. I believe it's Rivers and Tides is the name of it, and it's a really wonderful film to watch because you see him in process and the compulsion to get these things right. And you know, you see the frustration of him tying twigs together and having the wind come along and knock them apart and then start all over again. You know, he would make birds' nests out of twine that he got from vines. Um, Crazy guy, wonderful guy. But it's really the connection to the earth that these pieces are about. You know, they're really, they've got that quality, and you get that sense of the patience that it takes to put one of these things together. Okay, so moving from one connection to the earth to another. Now, I touched on Maya Lin the last time we did Storm King, and I also touched on Goldsworthy, but they're both very much worth another look. So one of the things that Maya Lin was involved in with this piece is there's a certain kind of symmetric wave pattern that happens in the ocean. And she wanted to take that and transmute it into the earth. And basically, the business that's going on with the striations in these hills, and then the mountains behind there, that was no accident. She was really trying to play with that. What was a wonderful incident for me was the patterns that were happening in those clouds that kind of mixed right in with the landscape that I was photographing at the time. Those just incredible formations that were happening in the clouds just really blew me away. Let me see, I'm going to move this over here. So, basically, Maya Lin is a really brilliant lady, and there's also, actually, I've got a YouTube talk that she did. It's about an hour-long talk about her work. She, as I'm sure you all know, she did the memorial in DC for the Vietnam War. It was quite a scandal at the time that a Chinese American would win this commission, and the interesting part was she was a senior at Yale when she won it. And there were a lot of people that were just like, who's this person? She, as I think you all know, it's a very moving piece, and she did win that prize for a reason. So what I want to do is actually move on to
Larry, before you go on,
yeah,
we have a comment from obviously a geologist, maybe at the in the audience. He says the cloud formation is called a mackerel sky.
Okay.
How appropriate above the waves.
Yes.
Actually, he's a poet. Hi, Scott.
Yeah.
So interesting comment. Thanks.
It's really, I love those textures. I was like, holy. I won't say the rest of that one. Anyway, that really, it just seemed like I was there at the right time. So what I'm going to move on to is some more of her work, which, she was catapulted into stardom with that Vietnam Veterans Memorial. Some of the work that she's done since then are really tremendous. The piece over there, the 11-minute line, basically what she did was she drew a line and she followed the course of that, walking through this field, and did the earthwork following that course that she walked. It's not very high, but it's a really effective piece. And then she's done a number of these wave pieces in different places. The one on the right is in Michigan. The one on the left is in Florida, I believe. And you know, they're really, it's really interesting the way she's kind of shaping the earth and working with that.
Larry?
Yes.
The 11-minute line, what is that? You said it's earth, but are they bushes or?
No, it's actually a berm. It's actually like the wave piece, like all these wave pieces, it's earthen. Basically what they do is she creates a mound and then plants grass over the top of the mound. So that piece is about, I think it's about 3 feet high. And I'd say it's somewhere around 6 feet wide at the base. So yeah, no, it's all made with earth, and then grass planted over the top of it. You know, the one thing that I want to say is, let me go back to this. This piece, actually, the height of the highest part of these waves is about 12 feet. So when you're inside this thing, they're really kind of above you. You're below this thing. You're inside of it. So you're feeling that being surrounded by it. It's very peaceful, actually. Now, the other thing that I didn't know about her until I listened to the lecture and saw her work is she is quite an amazing architect. And they're very modernist pieces, but they're unlike Frank Lloyd Wright, who was really more about pleasing himself than pleasing the client. These look like very livable homes, which she creates with them, very generous spaces. I wish I hadn't done the research on it. I should have pulled a couple of those pieces in here to show you, but you can find them. If you watch the video, you'll see some of her spaces. Okay, and one of the things I wanted to do is contextualize her work. These pieces right here are, the one on the left is actually a Native American earth mound. There's a whole series of these in Ohio where she grew up. Basically, there are burial mounds and these ritual mounds that were created by the Native Americans. So these are ancient pieces. And then the other thing I wanted to do was point out that, you know, the gravel and the sand and the repeat pattern and all of that is something that's been done over and over again in the Zen gardens. So, you know, really basically working with that kind of material is something that she was aware of, and you know, that's affected her aesthetic. And then the bottom piece is Spiral Jetty, which was done by an artist called Robert Smithson back in 1970. And this is in the Great Salt Lake It used to be completely surrounded by water, and now it is on dry land, which says something about what's going on in this country and in this world. It's a little scary. Okay, so so we're going to move on to Namjoon Paik. He is one of the first media artists. He was basically friends with John Cage and Rauschenberg and a bunch of those folks, and basically the name of the piece is Waiting for UFO. These kind of funky Buddhas getting kind of turned over on their sides. Really interesting piece, funny. He's really a character. He did a lot of things with TV sets and media stuff, kind of stuck together in conglomerations that you would never think of. And then this piece on the right is just, I thought it was a really fetching piece. I just wanted to show you. Okay, and there's one shot that I regretted not getting the last time. I did this Nevelson the last time I did Storm King, but I remembered that there was an angle where the piece played off of the architecture of the gallery building, and I really wanted to show that to you and catch that piece, because I really love the way it plays with the kind of Gothic structure of the stone house. And then there's this wonderful David Smith that the light was just not right the last time I was there to really be able to get the beauty of this piece. But it's a very sensitive, linear piece that has a really great sense of flight in it. Okay, and we're going to end with Calder. And they have a bunch of really great Calders over there. They're just really playful. And I just saw this shot at the end and wanted to get it. So here it is. The Storm King Art Center is open, and I think it's going to remain open at this stage of the game. Even with the funny weather today, they said that they were still open. So I've listed some of the YouTubes, and it's Rivers and Tides that is the Goldsworthy film, which I believe is available on Canopy. And then there's also a section of Art 21, season 4, that's available on Canopy, that is goes into Ursula von Reisenfeld's Vaughn Writingsbard, and she's really worth looking at and worth taking another look at.
Larry, somebody was interested on a lecture on Magazzino.
Yeah, well, they're there.
Okay.
I haven't been there. I don't know what's on at this point, but I can look into it. The other one is right here in Peekskill, which is the HV Mocha, and they have a good collection over there. So those are things that are possible. Next week we're going to do something a little different, because I basically went up to Innisfree about a week ago and got really great shots from up there. And if you're not familiar with Innisfree, it is a Oriental garden that was created by this couple started back in the 30s, and it's really a beautiful, beautiful place. I'm also going to do stone crop. I haven't been there yet. I'm going this weekend to take a look at that. They are only open. This weekend is the last weekend that they're open. So if you're interested in stone crop, that's in Cold Springs, New York, and you can get tickets for that and go over the weekend this weekend. I'm going up there, so maybe I'll see you there. So the week after, we're probably going to go to the Barnes collection. There's a Wayne Thiebaud retrospective, Wayne Thiebaud at 100, which is touring the country, and I'm going to do that one too. And then we're going to move on to the Guggenheim. And maybe I'll go check out Magazzino in between. Okay, so that's today. Any other questions? Oh.
We have no more questions, Larry, but thank you. That was wonderful. I feel like I've been to Storm King now. I couldn't get tickets, just so you know.
Yes.
And so I hope we will see you at all the programs. Please go to our website. We will have all the information for Larry's continuing series. Probably by Monday we'll have it, you think, Larry?
Yes.
Yeah, probably. So Monday you'll get them. We are having programs every single Friday. You might not see the link, but he's working on it. I mean, you got to give the guy a break. It's been every week he's getting through this, and he has to go visit the sites to boot. So thank you all for coming. And Larry, if you would just stay on a little bit when everybody leaves, we could talk.
Sure. Yep.
Okay.
No problem.
Thank you all for coming.
Bye.
Bye-bye. I'm just waiting till the numbers go down so you and I can talk. Larry, if you could take it off screen share.
Yep. There you go.
Okay, there's only another 7 people.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll just wait for them to leave. Larry, could you see the participants?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so you see the 7
I see the chats. I don't see the participants.
Oh, okay. We're just waiting for 5 people to leave.
Mm-hmm.
If you would mind leaving maybe they don't know how to leave. So I might have to end it. So Larry, I'll speak to you Monday. You'll be in and we could discuss it. Yeah, because I guess these people don't know how to leave.
Well, we can call. I'll give you a call.
Okay, call me on my cell.
Sure.
All right, thank you.
All right.
I see them and I know some of them, so I know it's a little more difficult for some of the people. But you know what? They're figuring it out.
Yep.
We've only got 4 left. I know it's all you have to do is end meeting.
That little X.
Well, or it might be a little rectangular red box.
Right.
And says end. You just have to hit that. No, it's probably hard for people.
Mine is down in the right-hand corner. When I go down here, it says leave.
Oh, it says leave. Well, mine. Oh, well, we're only down to 2.
Okay.
2 more people have to leave, so we could wait.
So, have you ever been to Innisfree?
No. In fact, I wanted to have the link because that would be a nice thing to go to this weekend. I think it's supposed to be nice, right?
Yes, it's going to be cool tomorrow, but warmer on Sunday. So well, definitely. Well, all you got to do is go to Google and Google search Innisfree, INNISFREE.
Okay, and it's a Japanese park.
it's a rock garden and plantings. This time of year, the plantings are still really beautiful because the textures and stuff like that are really gorgeous. But there's no flowers now. I mean, they've got a lily pad. They've got about a dozen water features throughout the park, and they've got a nice big lake. And then there's these rock gardens that are all over the place, and water features. So like
nice.
little waterfalls and stuff like that. Really wonderful place. Very peaceful.
Okay, I think we're having somebody who's definitely having trouble leaving.
Okay.
All right, Larry.
Well, we'll tune in. I'll call you.
Okay, bye-bye.